So just what does the future of Bethesda's games look like? Not only have their recent titles continued to feature their trademark bugs, but they've also managed to deeply damage trust with their player base. Not only did Fallout 76 have its myriad launch problems, it also has resulted in the studio walking back on a number of promises with their recent introduction of time saver microtransactions. Sure, we may have initially thought it's just because, Fallout 76 is a live service, online multiplayer game, but one only needs to look at other single-player RPGs like Assassin's Creed Odyssey to see that time savers are becoming the norm, with even the upcoming Bethesda-published Wolfenstein Youngblood having an in-game cash shop. Is it time to worry? Unfortunately, I think it might be. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another report, the Near Daily Show where we look behind the industry headlines. And today we're breaking the usual format and instead just taking a look at the situation with Bethesda. As a lifelong player of their games, recent titles have been fairly alarming, to say the least, especially as the company has got caught in with some of the more undesirable modern gaming trends. I would definitely characterize my feelings as sadness more than anger with them, but hey, enough about me, let's talk about where things could be going next. We need to begin with context. As a primer, Bethesda Game Studios is the studio that makes Elder Scrolls and Fallout. They're a spin-off of Bethesda Softworks, which is a games publisher that is owned by ZeniMax Media, who also own Machine Games, Arcane Studios, ZeniMax Online Studios, and id Software. So just so you know, that is the company structure that we're dealing with here. Moving on though, the industry context is extremely important. We're now in a time where multiplayer live service games are all the rage, with the idea being that you can just get continual revenue through robust in-game stores. Now, Assassin's Creed Odyssey is a bit of a strange example of this because it's not a multiplayer game, it's a single-player game, yet we're seeing it adopt many of those live service multiplayer trends, unfortunately in more ways than one. Not only does it have the standard array of cosmetics that one may sadly expect, it also sells an experience and gold boost. Now that's the sort of thing that would be considered pay-to-win in the eyes of most players of a multiplayer game like Fallout 76, but it didn't seem to damage Odyssey that much in spite of the fairly large and, I'd say, justified public backlash. We don't only see the encroachment of this type of microtransaction from live service multiplayer games into other types of games. We don't only see it with other companies though, because Bethesda's upcoming published game Wolfenstein Youngblood does have cosmetic microtransactions. Rage 2 also has similar types of microtransactions. It's fairly clear that it is just a direction that Bethesda published games are going in. And broadly, it's also a direction the industry is going in. So with that, let's talk about the Bethesda Game Studio titles and what's actually going on there. And we'll start off with the least egregious thing, the cosmetic microtransactions. Fallout 4 and Skyrim both have in-game microtransaction stores that were added in post-launch. Yes, I am talking about the Creation Club, a store that, yes, contains modder-created items that are officially vetted by Bethesda, and sure, some of that money does go to the modders, but let's be realistic about it. Neither of them are all that different from Fallout 76's Atomic Store in their fundamentals. Now yes, they're mostly cosmetic-focused items, but they do actually have use for your character. Now, sure, they're typically a good bit cheaper than the Fallout 76 cosmetics, but the point remains the same. If you go into the Skyrim Creation Club, it is a collection of armor and weapons for around 400 to 600 points, which is about $4 to $7. Sure, not as expensive as the insanely overpriced Fallout 76 items, but it still is fairly expensive. My main point here is that based on these and the Atomic Shop, I think it's highly likely that we will see a similar cosmetic store for Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6. And as a fan of solo RPGs, that really does make me kinda sad. I really do think that player set goals with strong rewards behind them are really important to keep games like that working, and that moving too many things over to the store is a fundamentally worrisome thing in a Bethesda RPG. Now, at least many of the Creation Club, if you buy a sword in the Creation Club, it normally won't just appear in your inventory, you might have to do a short quest for it. So at least that is coming with content, and that would be a better thing to have happen for, say, Elder Scrolls. But if you look at the Atomic Shop, it's hard to say that Bethesda will just not take the easy route. At the very least, it's a far cry from Morrowind or Oblivion. And sadly though, that's not it, because we do need to talk about time savers. Here's the thing, Bethesda introduced time-saver microtransactions to Fallout 76. What's worse, though, is how they laid the groundwork for it. So they added in repair kits to the game that really made news headlines. They're purchasable through the Atomic Store, and, unsurprisingly, they will repair your gear in the field, letting you adventure for longer. But here's the thing, just a few months ago, Bethesda decided to nerf perks that decreased armor and durability losses. Right, so they made armor take more damage, and then they added in repair kits as a microtransaction later on. That quite literally is creating the problem in order to sell you the solution. I mean, ultimately, why else would the armor kits be in the store if not to sell them? Let's be real. And what's potentially worse is the framing of this. Bethesda said they were excited to add in this community requested feature, and they said that they are interested in adding in more community requests. I mean, here's the quote. "We also felt we could try out something new with these, both in-game and in the Atomic Shop. As we look to the future, we're exploring ways we can bring other community-driven ideas to the game as well, such as refrigerators for camps, ammo and food converters, and even the ability to send scrap to your stash without having to head home." Well, you see, the thing is, food spoilage rates are pretty high, and ammo production was actually nerfed pretty early into the game's life. Given that they are already selling an in-game time saver with the repair kits, it's not hard to see how they could expand this time saver section of the Atomic Store. I mean, they've literally said they want to do that. This is an example again of just creating problems in the game, selling you the solution, which is pretty absurd, especially when you take into account that this, like Fallout 4, it is a fully priced game. It's just that, 76 happens to have the time savers. Now, this is not new for the industry, and this is where we have to loop back into Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which I covered earlier. It has its 50% XP and gold boost. They are examples of time savers that seem to have worked out well financially, but importantly, it's a single-player game. While we've not seen Bethesda flat out sell a boost, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they push the boat further. Will they be able to resist that? I mean, really, here's the problem. When I say that question, one word comes up: trust. Can we trust them? So now we've got to talk about Bethesda and trust. And ultimately, in my view, it's pretty hard to trust Bethesda. They have messed up a lot with their handling of Fallout 76. They have literally asked players to write them essays on why the player's behavior was wrong, which was quite a funny thing to see happen. They said they would have no pay-to-win mechanics in the game, and lo and behold, they added in the repair kits and also had technically a pay-to-win event with the just with a new cosmetic that they put in where you could get a boost if all of your friends wore the superhero skins during the event. So that's two examples of them breaking their promise. Now combine this with Todd Howard's incessant overselling of everything he does, and it's just flat out hard to trust anything that comes from Bethesda Softworks or Bethesda Game Studios. People could deal with buggy games for the most part, but things have gotten quite a bit worse. And that's not even to speak of Elder Scrolls Blades, a game which has faced numerous issues over the last while, again including reward nerfs that are fairly punishing and of course driving users towards the store, a store that has the full-on monetization scheme that really is the worst of mobile games. And again, that just makes it really hard to trust Bethesda the studio and Bethesda the publisher, and once more, Rage 2 and Wolfenstein Youngblood, both kind of single-player focused games with microtransaction stores, so clearly nothing is safe. So based on that, what can we actually expect from games like Starfield and TES6? Well, not much is known about the content of Starfield, so predicting monetization for it might be a little bit tricky. At the very least, I imagine we will have something akin to the Atomic Shop. After all, Fallout 4, Skyrim, and Fallout 76 all have an in-game store. That is most of that studio's recent output. The main question, though, is whether they will stoop to the level of selling time savers. That is a massive if. While I would love to think that it would simply be out of the question, again, one only has to look to the rest of the industry with games like Assassin's Creed, where we do indeed see free-to-play-like experience boosts and a whole microtransaction system be existing in a single-player role-playing game. Of course, even in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, if you want a lot of the cool armor, you gotta pony up money. Then even without that, Bethesda clearly do want to push further with Fallout 76's microtransactions, with them teasing ammo and food converters, instant stash transport, and all of that stuff, again, sort of being framed as maybe being in-game, but also maybe being in the Atomic Store, again, very unclear. Monetization like this, though, can also impact the design of a game. As an example, I wouldn't be surprised if TES6 had more of an emphasis on the mod-inspired home-building mechanics of Skyrim. Why? Well, Fallout 76 shows us that a player-made home is a pretty fantastic way to deliver paid cosmetic content. Given how even Bethesda has got those microtransactions inside Youngblood, I think something like that's actually fairly likely. Simply put, I think we can really all see what direction the wind is blowing here. The industry is moving towards making everything a live service. It's moving towards games being designed for live service monetization with cosmetic purchase delivery features. What do I mean by that? Well, it's pretty simple. It's like, say the town in Elder Scrolls Blades or your camp. It's having a thing that you can own that they can sell you cosmetics for. And then, of course, at worst, game balance that is designed to further drive purchases. Assassin's Creed Odyssey. It is not a stretch to say that these things just simply make games worse. They take away from immersion, they damage the core reward loops of those games, and it's the type of thing that would hurt a Bethesda role-playing game more than just about any other type of single-player game. Will we see TES6 feature paid repair kits? I would say probably not. Will we at the very least see it launch with an in-game cash shop? To be completely honest with you, while I don't think it's set in stone, I think it's far more likely than not. And even at that, it's like, if time savers and stuff like that were to exist, what would that mean for mod support? Which again is another worry. Would we see the next version of mods actually only be through the Creation Club? Again, it's hard to know, but as I said in this video, trust and Bethesda, it's just very, very hard indeed. So I mean, that's really it. This video doesn't have a happy ending. That is why I personally am worried for the future of one of my favorite developers, as evidenced by the actions of both, well, they're just developments, what they've made, and also the stuff that's being done by the publishing side of that company. Yeah, I really hope things do change. I hope we end up reaching some sort of mild breaking point where things, switch over. At the very least, I do know that indies are there, and that indies typically do refrain from most of this bad stuff, so that even if the AAA scene goes completely mad, we might actually end up in a okay space overall. So thank you very much for watching this video. Let me know what you think about these games and where they could go, and with that, I'll see you next time.